In recent times, a terrifying woman had been haunting the city. She has no face, and always carried a 2-meter-long reinforcing bar in her hand. She would show up in the dead of night, attacking humans, but this day she met a strange man. As she smashed the man's head, a strange event unfolded. The man's blood began to flow backward, and before long, he inexplicably came back to life. The man's name was Kuru. He has the power to foretell the future and is immortal, all stemming from his mysterious lineage. His ancestors believed in the concept of cures like, for instance, if they had liver issues, they sought out healthy beings to consume their livers. If their eyesight faltered, they specifically hunted creatures with excellent vision to devour their eyes. In their quest for greater powers, the ancestors discovered a yokai with a human head and a bovine body, gifted with foresight, convinced that consuming its flesh would grant them the power of foresight. But most of the people who ate the flesh of this yokai died a violent death. Only a few survived, and gained the ability to see the future, but soon after, these people would also die an extremely painful death. Repeated failures stoked the ancestor's volatile temper. In a fit of rage, he overturned a cabinet filled with scrolls, inadvertently stumbling upon a revelation: the existence of mermaids whose flesh bestowed eternal life. This news thrilled the ancestor immensely. He believed that if he could get his people to consume the flesh of both yokai at the same time, they could attain the abilities of foresight and immortality. So he immediately sent his men to find the meat of these two yokai, and initiated experiments on his kin. However, the yokai flesh proved lethal to humans, claiming the lives of all participants, including the ancestor himself. Undeterred, his descendants persisted with relentless trials until Kuru's generation, where a turning point finally emerged. Kuru's grandmother distributed the flesh of the yokai to the children, but soon all the children perished, except for Kuru, who remained unscathed. But the next moment, Grandma pulled out a dagger and stabbed him. Strangely, Kuru not only didn't die, but also gained the ability to foresee the future. Kuru eventually transformed into an immortal monster, but as a result, he became Grandma's test subject. To test Kuru's abilities, his grandmother incessantly tormented and harmed him. Over time, Kuru lost his sense of pain. His life was plunged into darkness. Fortunately, he encountered his cousin Rika. She was like a warm light. She not only helped him escape his grandmother's torment, but also provided Kuru with a sense of stability. But the shadow of his childhood is too deep. Even though Kuru had started a new life, and got a beautiful girlfriend, he remained unable to be like ordinary people. One day, Kuru and his girlfriend Saki were taking a stroll by the river when suddenly, a kappa emerged from the water. Saki, frightened, clung to Kuru, but he remained remarkably composed. Even more oddly, the kappa was so frightened by Kuru that it turned and fled. Seeing Kuru's vacant gaze and the fleeing kappa, Saki inexplicably felt a sense of fear towards him. Soon after, she decided to break up with him. Unexpectedly, not long after the breakup, Kuru encountered a strange girl named Kotoko. Kotoko not only claimed to be Kuru's savior but also boldly confessed her feelings for him. It turned out that 2 years ago, she had saved Kuru from a fall at the hospital, and had fallen in love with his handsome appearance at first sight. However, Kuru was already in a relationship at that time. Kotoko had no choice but to carry on her secret love for 2.5 years. Now that she had finally waited for Kuru to be single, Kuru was surprised by Kotoko's boldness. But what surprised him even more was that Kotoko was not human either. After they separated, Kotoko boarded a bus. Unexpectedly, a samurai yokai appeared above her head. Instead of harming Kotoko, the yokai embraced her face with care and addressed her as princess. It turns out that Kotoko was the boss of all the yokai. All this traced back to a day 6 years ago when Kotoko was abducted by the yokai into the deep mountains. However, they did not harm her but instead asked Kotoko to become their deity. The innocent Kotoko agreed, but she didn't realize that becoming a god came with a price. When she woke up again, she had lost her left leg and one right eye. Strangely, her wounds were well taken care of without any complications. After her condition stabilized, Kotoko was astonished to discover her ability to see yokai that others couldn't. Since then, she had become the deity of wisdom among the yokai, often helping them resolve disputes. And this samurai yokai is the one who came to ask for her help, because a fierce yokai has appeared in the library. The book-loving samurai yokai was so scared that he didn't dare to go to the library for several days. He hopes that Kotoko can get rid of that fierce yokai. The next day, Kotoko went to the library to check on the situation and ran into Kuru. She wanted Kuru's help in dealing with the yokai, but Kuru was reluctant to get involved. But Kotoko kept pestering him. Under her persistent persuasion, Kuro reluctantly agreed. As soon as they entered the library, a yokai charged towards them. Kotoko attempted to negotiate with it but nearly got eaten by the yokai. In a critical moment, Kuro grabbed her hand and they started to flee. Though Kotoko was a deity among the yokai, her powers were quite limited. In no time, she was struck down by the yokai. Fortunately, Kuro caught her just in time. Following this, Kuro boldly fed his arm to the yokai. What unfolded next left Kotoko in shock. The yokai that consumed Kuro's arm instantly disintegrated as if poisoned, turning into a pile of bones. It was then that Kotoko realized Kuro had consumed legendary mermaid flesh, making him immortal. It is for this very reason that Kuro does not want to accept Kotoko's love. However, Kotoko was not an ordinary human either. The next day, she approached Kuro once more, expressing her love. At that moment, Kotoko's skirt unexpectedly began to tremble, and a yokai emerged from within. Sensing Kuro's presence, the yokai fled in fear, showcasing once again Kuro's terrifying nature. This incident only strengthened Kotoko's resolve to be with Kuro. She then proposed that Kuro accompany her to meet the snake god. However, Kuro flatly refused her request. Kotoko had no choice but to travel to the mountains alone, to meet the legendary snake god. The snake god had summoned Kotoko for a peculiar murder case. Not long ago, the snake god witnessed a woman tossing a male corpse into the lake. Strangely, after disposing of the body, the woman uttered a phrase, expressing a wish for the body to be discovered soon. Days later, the man's body was found, and the police quickly identified the suspect as Aoi. Aoi readily admitted to his crime, but the numerous inconsistencies piqued the curiosity of the snake god, prompting it to seek Kotoko's help in uncovering the truth. To satisfy the curiosity of the snake god, Kotoko began her own investigation and deduction. From the gathered information, it was revealed that Aoi had grown up at the foot of the mountain. She was certainly familiar with the legend of the snake god's cannibalistic nature. Aoi's purpose in disposing of the body in the lake was simple. She wanted the snake god to discover the corpse and consume it, thus erasing her crime's evidence. However, this deduction was too simplistic and failed to convince the snake god. Kotoko had to continue her investigation and reasoning. It turned out that the male corpse was Aki, Aoi's husband's colleague. 5 years prior, Aoi learned that her husband and his lover had committed suicide after being caught embezzling company funds. Devastated by the news, Aoi left the city and moved to the countryside. Unexpectedly, 5 years later, her husband's colleague Aki found her. Aki, looking haggard, confessed his sins to Aoi. Seeking her forgiveness, the truth emerged that it was Aki who embezzled the funds initially. To cover his tracks, he cruelly murdered Aoi's husband and assistant, making it look like a tragic lover's suicide. But since then, Aki's family has been plagued by strange occurrences. His wife and children died tragically in a car accident, and he himself was diagnosed with cancer. Tormented by guilt, Aki sought Aoi out to find redemption. Aoi, consumed by hatred towards Aki, impulsively killed him and disposed of his body in the lake. And the reason Aoi hoped the police would discover the body as soon as possible was that she was pregnant with her husband's child. Upon finding out about her husband's affair, she became furious, aborted the child, and threw it into the lake. Now aware of the full truth, Aoi deeply regretted her actions and wished to locate the child for a final prayer. But searching the bottom of the lake requires a lot of manpower, so she threw the body and the murder weapon into the lake. To find evidence of the crime, the police will definitely search the lake. Then there's a chance that Aoi's child will be found. Upon hearing Kotoko's explanation, the snake god was deeply shaken, and remarked that sometimes humans were more terrifying than yokai. Just as he was about to say something, Kuro came out of the woods. Seeing Kuro with his terrifying aura, the snake god immediately hid. Following this incident, Kotoko and Kuro's relationship blossomed, and they frequently joined forces to assist yokai in overcoming difficulties. Recently, the appearances of the terrifying faceless woman have been increasingly frequent. The police station has been receiving numerous reports of supernatural incidents. Officer Terada believes all these legends to be nonsense. However, Officer Saki thinks otherwise. As Kuru's ex-girlfriend, she has personally witnessed Kappa and seen Kuru's wounds instantly heal. She firmly believes that yokai must exist. One night, as Saki walked home alone, a girl suddenly collided into her arms. The unexpected visitor was Kotoko. Kotoko warned Saki of imminent danger and urged her to flee. At that moment, a woman emerged from the darkness. When she revealed her full form, even Saki, a police officer, grew tense. This female ghost was none other than Steel Lady Nanase, responsible for multiple recent murders. Saki immediately rushed forward and delivered a punch to the female ghost's stomach, but the female ghost's body seemed to be transparent. Saki was also knocked away by the female ghost. As Saki lifted her head, the female ghost stood before her. In this critical moment, Kotoko pushed through the ghost to rescue Saki. Due to the intense movement, Kotoko's prosthetic limb flew off. Nonetheless, with a single leap on one leg, Kotoko kicked the female ghost away. Despite falling, the ghost swiftly rose and vanished into thin air as black smoke. With the danger averted, Kotoko urged Saki to leave quickly. However, Saki not only stayed but also grasped Kotoko's wrist and presented her police license. It was then that Kotoko realized Saki was Kuru's ex-girlfriend. Had she known earlier, she wouldn't have saved her. Saki brought Kotoko back to her home. After tending to her wounds, Kotoko declared herself as Kuru's current girlfriend. She then directly produced intimate photos of herself and Kuru, only to be met with laughter from Saki. Following a heated argument, Kotoko, upon leaving, advised Saki to flee decisively if she encountered the female ghost. With that said, she summoned a massive skeleton as her steed. Kotoko began investigating the female ghost. Originally named Karen, she was a popular celebrity adored by fans. However, during the peak of her career, tragedy struck as her alcoholic father accidentally fell to his death. Soon after, online rumors surfaced that Karen had purchased a substantial insurance policy for her father. Subsequently, her father's diary, filled with Karen's resentment and murderous intentions, was exposed. The netizens questioned whether Karen had killed her father. Under immense public pressure, Karen was compelled to exit the entertainment industry and traveled from place to place to avoid the paparazzi. But an accident did occur. One day, as Karen was passing by a construction site, she was struck and killed by a falling reinforcing bar. Afterward, she transformed into a female ghost and began attacking humans. Moreover, Kotoko discovered a dedicated website for the female ghost online. It not only featured her profile but also detailed illustrations. The weirdest thing is, the portrait is exactly the same as the female ghost that Kotoko saw. This revelation led Kotoko to a chilling realization: the female ghost might have originated from this website. Someone exploited the fantasies of the netizens to create a female ghost that harms society. Kotoko delved into numerous online comments and found a woman named Rika highly suspicious. Coincidentally, Rika happened to be Kuru's cousin. Seeking information, Kotoko approached Kuru to inquire about Rika. Just then, Saki arrived and informed them that the female ghost had resumed its killing spree. Meanwhile, Rika stood before a computer screen. She took out a knife and slashed her neck. Blood gushed out, but in the next moment, the splattered blood began to flow back into her body. Before long, Rika revived. She and Kuru belonged to the same lineage, possessing the abilities of foresight and immortality. Despite this, Rika desired to live as an ordinary human, willing to be a subject of medical experimentation. She sought to rid herself of immortality, but the current human medicine can't solve her problem. To break free from the curse of eternal life, Rika orchestrated the death of the popular star Karen, and leveraged the fantasies of countless online users to create the female ghost. The female ghost, born from human fantasies, shared Rika's immortality. As long as Rika continues to expand the influence of the female ghost on society, humans will try to destroy her by all means. Only by doing so can she potentially transform back into a true human, and completely rid herself of the curse of immortality. And on the other side, Kuru also found the female ghost. Although he's not as strong as her, but with his infinite resurrection ability, he took the opportunity to go around the back of the female ghost and broke her neck. However, the next moment, the female ghost stood up again. Realizing that Kuru was not an easy opponent, she then transformed into black smoke and vanished. The three of them, Kuru, Kotoko, and Saki, gathered to discuss a plan. Kotoko decided to consolidate the comments of online users to prove that the female ghost did not actually exist. By gaining the majority's acknowledgement, the female ghost, born from human fantasies, would vanish. However, just as they were about to act, a tragedy struck. Officer Terada was brutally killed by the female ghost in the street, sparking a massive uproar online. Netizens speculated that he was killed by the female ghost. Kotoko had to act swiftly to prove the non-existence of the female ghost, because the more anticipation there was from users, the stronger her power would become, leading to uncontrollable consequences and more victims. But it's not easy to create a reasonable lie in a short period of time. To prove that Officer Terada was not killed by the female ghost, they not only had to create a perpetrator, but also provide a reasonable explanation for the motive behind the crime. When Kotoko was at a loss, Kuru proposed designing multiple theories. By confusing the thoughts of online users, they believed they could find a way to eliminate the female ghost. Kotoko swiftly regained her confidence and fabricated 4 different theories in record time. An intangible battle was about to unfold. In a bid to prove the non-existence of the female ghost, Kotoko devised 4 strategies to counter the mastermind, Rika. Behind the scenes. To begin with, Kotoko posited that the female ghost was a mere fabrication. All rumors surrounding her murderous acts were orchestrated as a prelude to the eventual killing of Officer Terada. The perpetrator initially disguised themselves as the female ghost to attack pedestrians, then lured Terada to an abandoned gas station, utilizing a mechanism to catch the unguarded officer off guard. The individual who possessed such intimate knowledge of Terada and orchestrated the entire scheme could only be someone familiar with him, potentially a female colleague entangled in emotional disputes with him. This well-founded evidence, coupled with Kuru's foresight, managed to sway a considerable number of online users into believing that the female ghost was a fallacy. However, just as momentum seemed to be on their side, the online discourse took a sudden turn. Users began voicing opposition and dissenting opinions. Kotoko understood that Rika had intervened, boasting a larger support base. Undeterred, Kotoko persisted, knowing that as long as she could sway a portion of the online users to her side, her objective would be achieved. Then Kotoko began her second explanation. She began to reverse her reasoning. This time, she affirmed the existence of the female ghost. It turned out that the popular idol, Karen, did not murder her father. Instead, her father intentionally committed suicide to retaliate against her, and used his diary to shift all blame onto Karen, forcing her to withdraw from the entertainment industry. Ultimately, she met an accidental death by being struck by a reinforcing bar, and transformed into a female ghost to seek revenge on humans. This narrative sent online users into a frenzy, shifting their focus from the female ghost to Karen's tragic tale. Spontaneously, they began offering prayers for her soul. The strength of the female ghost diminished instantly as a result. However, just as Kuru prepared to eradicate her, the online discourse shifted once more. Rika, assuming the identity of an online user, challenged Kotoko's narrative. If Karen is truly pitiable, then she should seek solace from others, rather than wielding a reinforcing bar to kill people indiscriminately. An entity like the female ghost, attacking humans everywhere, is not deserving of sympathy. As the majority began to align with Rika's perspective, Kotoko revealed the final explanation: Karen did not die. The one struck and killed by the reinforcing bar was a stand-in arranged by Karen, and the female ghost was a fabrication of hers. Her intention was to make everyone believe she was dead, so she could start a new life. The most compelling evidence was this website, as the latest updates about the female ghost always originated from this site first. All of this pointed to Karen orchestrating everything behind the scenes. With this revelation, all internet users began to firmly believe this narrative. Users joined the discussion in droves. At this point, whether Rika admitted or refuted it, the outcome was now irreversible. With the support of online users, fantasies lost. The power of the female ghost diminished greatly. She was eventually eliminated by Kuru. This yokai, born of fantasy and deception, ultimately met its demise within falsehoods.